probably start with, here my screen. I'll start with the page of the Center for Urban History. So this is our official page, lvivcenter.org, and you can find a section which is called Documenting Experiences of War, and there are several projects that we initiated in March of 2022, and one is collecting testimonies from the war. So if you click, there is a description, and there is an extensive partnership in this project. So the center was turned into the shelter, and we have a big influx of people from eastern regions and central regions of Ukraine coming through Lviv to Europe or to Lviv, and we started recording the experiences, making oral history archive. Now we have more than 200 interviews. This archive is backed up by the University of Luxembourg, and we have partnership with Polish colleagues, so it will be a very, I think, important source and important archive for the future research of this war. And Anastasia will tell you more about this visual documentation of the war. So she works with basically with images and visual materials. Sorry, I have these indications because we have an error alarm right now, so we might disappear if something will happen, but right now our anti-missile system works, so it's a real wartime seminar, I would say.
Oh my God, thank you so much for making it.
And there are two more projects. One is archiving social media, which is called Telegram Archive of the war. And this is done by our colleague Taras Nazaruk, who is leading digital history projects at the Center for Urban History. So you can also consult here. This is a very difficult archive because it collects a lot of data from various channels which are available on Telegram. And this is special social media. A lot of people shifted to this media during the war. And since March, it became kind of important channel for sharing either private or collective information. And there was another, I would say, the fourth initiative, which I'm going to tell you more today, which is Diaries and Dreams of War. Since I'm sitting now at this university. I'm teaching at the Ukrainian Catholic University, and we have students of cultural studies. So I propose them to write diaries and documents and documents of war. And since March, we had more than 60 people who volunteered, but then many of them couldn't really write diaries. So by now we have 33 collections of personal diaries, and they are very different. Some people would write a page-long diary and then stop, and some of them would continue up to the mid-summer of this year, so like 80 pages, a lot. And then among these diaries, we have some section of dreams, which is not a lot, but still they're very interesting sources. We also recorded our group meeting of the every Saturday we were gathering together with students, discussing how our personal experiences differ and what is collective in these experiences. And then also we have some sound recordings. A girl whose parents are still in the occupation zone in Minerva atomic power station. She wrote a song and a musical. And we have also a lot of pictures and other sources. So what I'm going now to switch to my presentation from the page. Yeah, here I'd like to tell you more about the background, let's say theoretical background, why we started doing these diaries and memories, and of course, an important, assume that you see my bar, yes?
Yes.
Zoom bar.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, I'll just move it around, okay. So, yeah, the most famous diary my son studied in Italy. He went to school in Italy for 2 years, and they had a special lesson about Anna Frank and her diary. And he still remembered the Siamo tutti Anna Frank, we are all Anna Frank, and this is a typical school lesson in Italy which recalls the experiences of this girl who made a diary and which was published after the Second World War. And this diary, when it was a raw document, like a textual document, it was read by Jacques Presser, who later coined a term, ego document. So in 1955, he would start using this idea of ego documents, and here everything was defined as writings in which the I, the writer, is continuously present in the text as the writing and describing subject. And this was something new for history, since the war changed a lot. I mean, the Second World War changed a lot in the perception of what is like plausible documents of such a calamitous, such a problematic history as was the Holocaust or as was the Second World War. Yes, and of course there was a kind of ethical drive behind making diaries important sources of history. Later on, ego documents would include many other forms of self-reflective writings, like autobiographies, memoirs, diaries, letters, travelogues, passions, testaments, various forms of conversations, and so on. So basically everything which was often omitted in history writing was now considered to be important. And in the 60s, 70s, ego documents became an important turn in historical writings. So this is the Center for Urban History again, our webpage, the center. And of course, taking in mind Jacques Presser's idea about ego documents was one thing why we decided to ask students to write diaries. And we were aware that in March of 2022, a lot of people went through kind of very emotional and problematic situations, and we didn't want to kind of reharm or re-traumatize them by asking questions that could trigger unnecessary emotions, let's say. So one of the ideas was that while writing diaries, a person can avoid a very kind of emotional state. So that I would continuously tell these people that they're producing documents as testimonies for the future. And they had various possibilities. So we consulted with other colleagues in different countries, and they recommended us to ask people to write about their personal life, like how their life changes, how the neighborhood changes, how they observe media, and how they can reflect on what is around them. So not to focus on emotions, on their feelings, but we understand that these ego documents, they are very often about emotions and feelings, yes? And this is what made these two documents important. And among these documents, among diaries, very quickly appeared a kind of set of writings which was connected to dreams. And I knew about Shavuot Berat book, to which we will come in a few minutes, but in general, I also have to consult with psychiatrists, and I have to admit that in our group who worked with students, we had a philosopher, associate professor from local university who is practicing mindful meditation, and he helped us a lot with starting group sessions every time. We were breathing and doing various exercises. And then also we had a psychiatrist who would help us with dealing with emotions. Yeah? So they would also recommend students how you can do various exercises to avoid unnecessary kind of emotional collapses or crashes. Yes. And I also consulted with psychiatrists, and they informed us that there are various theories about dreams, and among them, of course, there are these false supernatural theories, which is very interesting. Recently, we had a seminar with Wojciech Owczarski, from Gdańsk, from Poland, and he researched dreams of Auschwitz prisoners. And he recalled that repelling dreams, and especially believing that dreams have this kind of supernatural power to predict the future, was one of the most important exercises that these prisoners in Auschwitz had. And the sources he collected were obtained from people after the war, and I was struck by the situation that people in camp in Auschwitz, they had much better dreams in contrast to those dreams that they had when they were liberated. Yes, so when they were liberated, living in peacetime, they had much worse dreams than in the camp. And there are some explanations for this, but in general, we have these kind of big four theories of dreams, and we explain them as physiological. Some theories like Alan Hobson theory, which says that the dream is basically a result of some activities of brain, and they don't have a special meaning. Yes. Then there is a very kind of important recent theory by a Finnish neuroscientist, Antti Vuonsuo, who called his theory threat simulation theory, and he says that almost every dream is a warning. It gives a human possibility to predict, not to predict, but kind of to play as if living through dangerous situations. So dreams, and this is again, it's not a psychoanalytic theory, it's a neuroscientist theory, let's say. So they measured brain and those regions of brain that fired, they were connected to also zones which were responsible for simulation and dealing with threats. And of course, there is this important set of theories which are connected to psychoanalysis, like Sigmund Freud's wish fulfillment theory, of Carl Jung, archetypal theory, and so on. So, of course, we consulted about these theories of dreams, but then being historians, we were mainly looking for social explanations of dreams, and of course, we came upon Gordon Lawrence, who coined this idea that dreams do not belong just to a separate kind of unified, like some autonomous human being, yeah, but then he would say that dreams can reflect our social life. And this was important for us as historians. Collecting dreams probably could give us some glimpse into what he called social dreaming, and Gordon Lawrence, developing this idea of social dreaming, he based his theory on Charlotte Berat book. She was a psychiatrist living in Berlin, and she recorded dreams before the war started in 1939, so it was the period when Nazis came to power between 1933 and 1939. Then she migrated to the United States, and then in 1966, I think, the German version was published, and the English version was published in 1968, which was called The Third Drive of Dreams. And here are various books covers which deal with social dreaming, and here this famous book by Charlotte Berat. And a lot of dream researchers or professionals in this field, they consider this book very influential in this field of not only research in dreams, but also other fields like history, because we are historians, and this Wojciech Owczarski, whom I mentioned from Poland, he's professor of literature, literary studies in general. This is his major field, and he considers this book as one of the most fascinating in the field. But for many historians, it was also the case. I will not repeat this again. Robert Ley, but yeah, in regard to Charlotte Berat, it was a kind of similar to a diary of Anna Frank. Yes, it was an enterprise of her personal belief that probably she was not alone having strange dreams during Nazis who came to power in Germany, indeed, the nationalists, they tried to kind of control everything, almost including people's personal lives, and they probably could abstain being part of taking part in politics just during dreams left, yes, and very influential for us. Again, I'm here talking mainly about this theoretical background. Why do we collect dreams as historical institution? Was not just literary research, but also historical research. And here is a very famous and important historian, Reinhard Koselleck, and he, while dealing with this book by Charlotte Berat, he was struck by a new phenomenon for him. So it was not just ego documents which appeared out of these personal documents, but also a specific attitude to history. So for Reinhard Koselleck, conventional, normal documents were not explaining what happened during Holocaust or during Second World War, and this inadequate explanations led him to this book of Charlotte Berat, and he produced this famous essay, Terror and Dreams, Methodological Remarks on the Experience of Time during the Third Reich. And in this essay, he was talking about similar things like Lawrence, that dreams have this social function, so they can represent something invisible, some hidden structures. But also, what for Koselleck, what was important, that for instance, in dreams that Charlotte Berat collected in Berlin, people could predict while dreaming and recording the experiences, what they remembered. They could predict. You can treat this as Rivon's theory of threat simulation, but then also for Koselleck it was strange because what they've seen in dreams will come true after 1939. So for Koselleck, apparently dreams which were recorded in the cities would be documents from the past, but also present and also directed into the future. And for him, these three times would collapse in one document. And as historian who is dealing with kind of fixed time, yes, it was really fascinating and difficult challenge. And there are some excerpts from dreams that we collected, and here is Dana Kozi, a young girl, and she dreamt about missiles like those that now flying over the city. But in that period, it was not that obvious. We didn't have really that much fear about missiles, long-distance missiles that can bombard various regions of Ukraine. But mainly we were afraid in these months about planes. So people were fleeing and asking, close the sky, because we don't have enough systems to protect from enemy planes carrying missiles. And she had a dream that as if a missile is catched by a bird, which we can call interpret as anti-missile system. But her dream gives this glimpse of possible kind of future situation, which was also taking place in March of this year, some months ago. So for Reinhard Koselleck, dream is important because it gives you this possibility to see, to reach, to maybe not understand, but to at least to acquaint with non-verbal experiences of subjects, of people. And he would even call this political anthropology of dreams, yes, political anthropology of dreams, because it was more than something personal. It was about time, but also about a possibility to, as I said, to see these hidden structures. This is also another dream of Goebbels who has this kind of fear of animals. We have a lot of dreams which deal with animals, and this is a dream about mouses. You have this, often you have this situation that people express their fears, anxieties through metaphors in dreams, yes, and animals is a specific subject also to study. Koselleck would said that for us historians, dreams are important because they show two dimensions. He would call it space of experience, something that you experience, like now, me sitting and, waiting for the missile, and you don't know where it will land. And then horizon of expectations, he would say, something unattainable. These two fundamental dimensions, they split in the dream, and this is important. So people often reflect on what they experience, and dreams, they bring this dimension, but then they also can predict. They can be kind of, not predict, but they can be directed. At least at this threat simulation activity, they can predict some future possibilities. So splitting these two kind of fundamental dimensions gives us a lot of space for thinking and trying to understand the reality, say. Of course, there are a lot of questions whether dealing with such fictional documents like Diaries for Dreams, do we really kind of make history very kind of relative? Wouldn't be difficult to include all various fictions into historical writings. And of course, like Presser and Koselleck, they warned that Diaries and Dreams should be used very cautiously, but also these historians, they would encourage to work with such fictional materials, because again, as I said, they give you a glimpse, access to emotions, which is very difficult to get when you work with some typical historical documents. Like this small dream of Tanya Kachkovska, which says, in my dream we came to my grandma to celebrate Easter. We invited some guests, but they called and said they wouldn't come because the police were driving around the city looking for rape victims, raped by Russian soldiers. I was one of the victims. My mother told me that I had experienced violence and must inform the police. She said this in a regular voice. The day was very sunny. And such documents, they are not, of course, kind of give you the evidence of rape, yes? But if you, of course, correlate dates and these were the dates when the Bucha was liberated in the late March, and in April, probably all Ukrainian media were full of stories about mass rapes and mass murders of people in these small towns around Kyiv. And what I already found, a lot of people reacting. So some of these reactions were triggered by media and information, and even because of this, we can deal with these documents as evidences, as historical evidences, because I already have a set of artists who were making images of rapes. A lot of people had anxiety related to rapes, and these emotions are recorded in such documents. Okay, I think I must finish soon. There is another dream which says, I recall I had a very interesting dream before the war. I was in the mountains with a friend. We tried to climb the ridge, and going up we saw the nature burning all around. My friend said, Anya, Ukraine is on fire. We ran higher up, but the fire followed us. We couldn't escape the fire. And I woke up. And I personally also had such dreams which were produced before the war, and they were very much about the war. So again, it's like this cosalic story. Dreams possess these two kind of this dimension of experience and dimension of possible future. Yeah, these questions, to what extent ego documents consciously or unconsciously differ from real deeds or thoughts of authors, how we basically can believe to these documents, whether they can work as testimonies. And while having such presentation at the Cornell School of Law, there was a distinguished professor of law who said that, yes, dreams and such diaries can be sources of, they can be treated as evidences, and they can be used as sources during the court procedural. And he even encouraged us to continue this work. I think here would be the time to stop what I'm saying. But I'd like to finish with, just make this long story short. We still continue collecting these documents. We don't have a big archive, and this was not our intention to create a big archive of diaries and dreams. We rather wanted to turn attention to such documents, such sources, and we discuss them very often. We now have a international group of scholars who are ready to read these diaries and dreams and interpret them, and we compiled a book proposal which is now sent to Routledge and Cambridge University Press, and with my colleague Magdalena Zolkos from Finland, we are trying to get the publishers interested in this project, so we will have a group of scholars working with psychosocial dimensions of these documents. And I hope also historians will come also to analyze these sources, but as it is often with historians, they are more conservative than other hybrid fields. So here probably it's time to stop and give the floor to my colleague Nastya, who will tell you more about collecting images.